Hi, I'm Chuck
and Deb,
and welcome to Biker Life Radio. We're so truly grateful and thankful that you've joined us today. We've got a fantastic show lined up just for you.
Biker Life Radio is for those who ride and those who inspire to ride. We're here to reveal the truth behind the motorcycle mystique and bring the real-life stories of the biker lifestyle.
All right, so we're going to call this the Deb Show from now on because you're taking over, right?
No.
Rider Coach Deb?
Maybe today. I'll take on today.
I can't hear you.
I don't know why.
Is it just because some buttons aren't pushed?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Is that better?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
You can hear me now. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Okay, Rider Coach Deb. Let's see what else we can mess up this week. What do you think?
No, I'm done. Is that 2 or 3 for the week?
I don't know. It's too many.
It is too many. So
1 is too many.
Yes, I
1,000
too many. Totally agree. Well, I wanted to talk today a little bit about something. We had one of our listeners reach out to us and send me an article, but I've done some other reading, and it's just something that's popped into my mind as I think about, how it was when I first got started riding, which was quite a while ago. And, how did I get to become a better rider? And I don't know that for me, I put a logical thought process to it. But, there may be new riders or people that are just getting their license out there or endorsement and want to know how to become a better rider. And I thought that might be a really great topic for us to talk about today.
Well, I think it's a great topic, and it not only applies to people who are just beginning to ride, but also those who have been riding for a while, because all of us have to continue to improve on our skills. I would imagine there's things that we can always continue to improve on, but I'm sure there's some people out there that don't need to improve whatsoever because they've been doing it so long and they've learned a lot quicker than I probably could.
Well, there could, but for me, there's also a little bit about this, whether you've been taught by an actual tending a course, or if you're taught by a friend, family member, things like that. I think that the learning process can be very different, and the skills and habits that you use to ride with on a daily basis can be very different. So, we oftentimes have lots of conversation after we go out for a ride, and I love that. And I oftentimes share that with my class because I think that's how you continue to become a better and better rider, because riding is not something that just you think about or learn to do with one, with a hand or a foot. It's all of those different parts working at the same time. All of our hands are working differently. Our feet are working differently. And then we have to be observant and aware enough of our surroundings, watching the road, watching everything else that's going on around us in order to have a successful ride. So there's a lot of what we call moving parts that are going on all at once. And sometimes it takes a little while to adapt and figure out what all those parts do and how they all work together.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And, it's hard for me to think back to when I first started riding because I actually started on a mini bike for fun, got to ride somebody else's mini bike and fell in love with it. And then as I got into my teen years, I got a dirt bike. So I basically taught myself on a dirt bike and carried all those bad habits over to me as I ride today. Not necessarily. I think they're actually good. But, nobody really ever taught me to ride. I never took a class. I just got on it and went out there and rode and figured it out and probably did develop some bad habits. And I think, Deb, you've had that happen to people that come in your class. They've got some habits that they, whether they be a dirt bike rider or one of the things that you've run across recently is if they ride scooters, it's a little bit different, right?
Yes. And I recently had that situation happen. So I'm glad that you brought that up. We oftentimes have either a spouse or a significant others tried to help coach someone along the way. And, I've had some that coach by the book and are wonderful. And then I have others that have just shown the dirty down and how to make it happen. And then they get out there on the course and all of a sudden they've got these habits that you don't only need to learn something new, you have to erase the old first. So there sometimes is a little bit of a challenge there, but once I help try and explain why there's a recommendation to do it a certain way or why I see something that I see and how they can probably improve it, oftentimes they're more receptive to how to do that differently and are willing to give it a try.
Well, and when they're just starting off, they've got a lot to learn. And I'd imagine that, especially when you're coming in and you've got these bad habits, does it have to relate to muscle memory and all that stuff? How does that play a part, or does it?
Well, the bad habits do. They connect to the muscle memory because you just get on and you ride after, you've done it for so long. You just do whatever it is you do. But even as we were out traveling and, I saw the riders on the road, oftentimes based on wherever we were territory wise, I would look at those riders and think to myself, how experienced did you need to be to do that ride? And oftentimes, some of the mountain passes that we covered, I thought for sure there had to have been quite a bit of experience before someone got on the motorcycle and did those twisties and turns and all of that steep climbing and, with the trucks and all that kind of stuff that was going on. You had to have some level of not just comfort, but skill as well. And, that was one of the things I think that brought me to this topic, in addition to, being it brought to my attention, is that, again, as a new rider or someone that's just maybe ridden locally, do you really have an interest in doing long distance riding? Because that takes a whole nother story and a lot of planning, a lot of preparation. But in addition to that, I think it takes a lot more skill and abilities to be able to do that. You don't just go from just getting your license to riding for days in treacherous territory.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. You're not going to, it's like, I don't know what I'm trying to relate it to, but it's trying to build a muscle and you're not using any weights to do it. So it's just not going to happen. You've got to exercise, you've got to practice in order to continue to get better and to continue to improve. And also one of the things that I think that you need to go along with what you were saying, Deb, is not only the skill, but you got to have the confidence. You got to have the confidence to ride. For me, and that's not a cocky kind of thing or anything like that.
No.
There's a confidence in your riding. I hate to use the word even comfort, because we don't want to get too comfortable on the motorcycle, though I can get real comfortable on mine and actually enjoy that. But we have to be alert. We have to, not get too comfortable to where we space out so much. And then you talk about these long rides that people need to go on. There's endurance factor. There's an endurance factor that goes into that. And of course, while I was on my ride across the country, I found out how out of shape I really was, and many things I didn't prepare for, particularly for the heat. I wasn't ready, and I knew I wasn't ready before I went, didn't I? I talked to you about it. I knew that the heat was going to be the biggest challenge
for you to conquer. Right. Absolutely. But you did a lot of preparation though, trying to be sure and be prepared. You had lots of water, you had lots of rehydration fluids that you had packed as well. There was a lot of thought process, I think, to get you through that to that next level day by day, but it still wasn't even enough. And how could you have known that other than experiencing it?
Yeah. And when you're thinking about riding 8 hours or longer a day, does take some serious endurance, and it does take the confidence to get out there. And when you're talking about people going on their twisties or whatever, you got to have some confidence. You got to have skill. There's no doubt about it. Right. You got to have the skill, but if you don't have the skill and you get out there, and don't get me wrong about this either, if you're afraid, there's something different. To me, there's a difference between being afraid and having a fear of something. It's different. It's how do I want to put it? A fear that, help me out, Deb.
I think that, there's an awareness rather than
right.
fear.
And it's not going out there fearful, right?
Correct.
It's just, you understand the risk. So right. It's not you go out there fearful. You're definitely not afraid. If you're on a bike, in my opinion, and you're afraid to be on it, then you need to probably practice a little bit more, have some more coaching and things like that. Now, of course, we're talking a lot about beginner riders, but also experienced riders can learn a lot. For myself, I have issues. What?
I'm glad you openly admitted that to everybody. You have issues.
Well, you didn't let me finish.
Okay.
Everybody's going to like that now that Deb's got a jab in on Chuck.
Did.
Yeah, everybody likes that, I bet. So I'll take care of her afterwards.
Yeah. Bring it on, buddy.
So anyway, one of the things that I need to work on, that I've identified that I need to work on, is U-turns. And I can do a right U-turn, fairly easy. I don't even think about it. And I'm probably okay with a left U-turn, though I'm not as comfortable with a left U-turn. And to me, it's all about my head movements anyway. So if I get my head down and I'm pointing my head to the direction I want to go in, everything should work out fine. So even with me, I'm able to notice and identify these things, Deb, that I can continue to improve on.
Sure. And I think that all riders need to be in that place where there's always constantly something that you're aware of that you could probably do a little bit better. And even if you're really, really a good rider with lots of experience, there's probably something that you can do that's a little bit that to fine tune, to get sharpen that skill, make it a little bit better. And I'm glad that you brought up the turning, because I think as a rider coach, I oftentimes, people will say, oh, a right turn feels better than a left, or a left turn feels better than a right. And we do, as humans, have a level of comfort in where we're dominant. And so we all have a side, one or the other, that's easier and better. And I think the challenge is, as you want to improve those skills, is to not rely on just that confident comfort level, is to challenge yourself to get better at what you're less comfortable with, so that you can do and be flexible no matter what the circumstance is. And I know that, oftentimes you'll tell me that I really could do better at my quick stopping. And so that's something that I've been very, very conscious of to continue to work on. And I think for me, it's been the fear of the front brake a little bit.
Really? Rider
Yes.
Coach Deb.
Yes.
Still fearing the front brake.
Well, fearing too much pressure. So I'm very gentle. I'm very cautious. And again, obviously, as a rider coach, I ride several different motorcycles. And so for me, it's, I in a class environment, I don't get comfortable on any one motorcycle, because of the students, I try and ride all of their motorcycles, so that if they're having a difficulty with shifting or a clutch, I felt it myself and I know where maybe that's coming from. So I try to be aware of that in the class environment, which I think changes maybe sometimes how I ride. But if I ride my motorcycle for an extended period of time, I begin to feel that comfort level coming back.
Well, what do you do when you brake? Are you, for me, for instance, I try to use everything. I'll just throw it out there. I use my front brake. I'll use my back brake. And a lot of times I look at quick stops as a challenge. I like it. Because I want to stop on that dime. And so I use everything. I'll downshift. I'll do everything in order to make sure I stop right on that line. And so I always challenge myself to do it, just because that's what I like to do. It gives me some fun while I'm riding, something, a little change now and then.
Right.
But I use everything. What about you?
Yeah, I use both brakes, and that's what's strongly recommended through the Motorcycle Safety Foundation, is using both brakes. But I think what people tend to forget about is that your front brake tends to carry 70% of your stopping power. So the idea is that there is a finesse, and I'll use that word very carefully, because it's a gradual pressure, but it's not too much pressure. So because I think that all the stories of flipping over the handlebars or putting too much front brake here or there, people tend to have an idea of either, one, they don't use the front brake whatsoever, or they don't use the rear brake. And that's oftentimes what I see when people come into class that have been taught by someone else, is that those are the things that are passed down. Don't use your front brake whatsoever. And well, what's the reason for that? No, you don't want to flip it. Well, the front brake is there to be used as a tool to brake. So let that be what slows you down, not necessarily anything else. So use the tools that the motorcycle was designed with to work the way they're designed. So if you've got a front and a rear brake, there's a reason for both of them, and use them in conjunction with one another, because what that does is it gives you better stopping power on the quick stops, for sure.
Well, one of the things I like about what you said earlier was you talked about sharpening the skills. And, I always thought, there could be somebody out there that knows everything. They don't need to learn anything. But the way that you put it, sharpen your skills, I like that, because you can sharpen your skills. You can get better at it. You can have a sharper knife, if you will. And when you bring up the braking, one of the other things that I need to work on is I have a tendency to break into turns. Now, I guess that's probably not a good thing. Is that right, Rider Coach Deb?
Well, the concept is that you slow, look, press, and roll. And so you slow before you get into the turn, so that you're not actually using any brake in the turn. But so then you slow and you're looking through the turn. And as you're, going through it, obviously the part that I love about curves and turns is that you then begin to accelerate through it and pull you on through. And I love that part of it. But it does take, some training and development in order to figure that process out. So it's like you've got to go into the corner or in the turn in a comfortable speed for you. And we all have a different comfort level for that.
And it's not just about going into the curve. It's about, I use my brake in the turn.
Oh.
So, and from what I understand about the brake is that if I'm using it, it could actually straighten me up.
Yes.
And that's not what you want to do in a turn. Now, I could be wrong about that, but I felt it sometimes. My bike's talking to me, and that's why I know I need to probably not be using my front brake in turns as much as I have. And of course, I'm very gentle with it, unlike other things in my life. I am typically gentle with the brake when I do go through turns, but there have been times where I've applied a little bit more pressure than I wanted to at
Okay.
first.
And then how do you recover from that? Because that's an
Well,
important part too.
I just let off the
Just
brake.
ease off a little bit. Sure.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, what else are you going to do? I'm going to squeeze it tighter? I don't think so.
Well, I
I
know,
could
but
slow down.
you could, the other reaction is let completely off. And then all of a sudden you're not at the right speed or comfort level then either. So if you just ease back off, and again, there's that finesse and that, knowing your motorcycle. And I think that for what, you're talking about, you have ridden your motorcycle for a long time. I mean, years you've ridden the same motorcycle. It's not as though you're constantly getting on a new motorcycle or have one every couple of years. And so you're really comfortable with the controls, and you know how they're set. And even when there's a tune-up involved, kind of the settings that work best for you.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess we probably all in some way, I shouldn't say all, I can only speak for myself, is that I have bad habits that need to be sharpened, as you talked about. And I can only imagine, Deb, that the people that you get on the course, when they come to your class, they come from a wide variety like me, probably get some dirt bike people in there. And lately, you've actually told me about people who have been coming in on scooters. Yes. And how they actually have to change some of the habits they have. You've got the habits that the dirt bikers have, right, and then you've got the scooters. And so you want to share anything about that?
I'd love to, because scooters have been something a little bit newer to me in a class environment. But so dirt bike riders, one of the couple of things that I notice on a dirt bike rider is they'll actually squeeze their brake with 2 fingers. That's kind of a quick control for a dirt bike rider. And so again, if someone tells me they have that experience, I'm looking for certain things. A scooter rider, though, what I learned about scooter riders is their rear brake is where their clutch is. And so their left hand that they're used to squeezing for a brake, they now need to engage fully for a clutch. And there's a totally different mechanism there. And so, of course, now they have the rear brake pedal on the bottom of the motorcycle that they have to adjust to too. So there have been some adjustments during the class. But again, understanding that as a coach, I can help guide maybe a way or a tip or technique that might be able to make it a little easier for them. That's all I want to do.
So let's test your observation skills.
Okay.
What do I do?
I think you do tend to do 2 or 3 fingers on there. And again, the challenge with that is, not that I'm scaring anyone, but if you have 2 fingers, first of all, you have the most control of that front handbrake and control of your handlebars if your hands are completely over. So the idea is that it's around the throttle, and then you squeeze the brake with your full hand and fingers, and that's the best control. So that's one technique. But also, if you're using your brake with those 2 fingers and it does happen to go down, which we do lay our motorcycles down from time to time, and if that brake is catching those 2 fingers underneath it now, what could that possibly be as an extra injury that you didn't really want to have? So just a couple of thoughts through that process of braking and just making it
I don't
easier.
like laying the bike down from time to time. Let's just try not to do that.
I try not to do that too, but I have done it. So at
Really?
very,
When?
Yeah, when we remember.
That's not like riding and laying it down. That's falling. That's dropping
well,
the bike.
I know,
or
but
something.
I've had 2 situations where it's gone down, and then that's just the way it is.
You slipped on some leaves when you're getting off the bike.
I slipped on some leaves getting off. Actually, I was after a full day of riding, and we were nutrition deprived and probably hydration deprived at that time. And so it was, a lot of that fatigue from riding. And then the second one, I was just bringing a motorcycle out of the driveway, and we've got a little divot into the road. And I had my handlebars turned probably at that time, if I can think about it right. And all it takes is a slight turn of that handlebar, and all of a sudden the weight of that motorcycle starts to shift.
Where the handlebar was turned?
Yep. Imagine that.
Yeah. Imagine that's what happens.
Yeah. So, riders that want to improve skills, I think there are a couple of ways that you can do that. And one I know that you had mentioned, Chuck, is that you haven't mentioned it yet, but I know we've talked about it, is you took an advanced rider's course.
Right. I did.
Yep. What'd you think about that?
I enjoyed it. I get made fun of quite a bit, and some jokes and pranks were played on me, but I guess that's to be expected with a bunch of biker friends that you know. And I took my own bike. I probably wouldn't do that again because it was really hot out, and was sort of wearing on my bike, but you know, with my apes and everything. And I enjoyed it. I got a lot out of it. It was good to be in a class where you knew the other people that were taking it together. So that's something that I would highly recommend, that if you're going to take it in a group of people that you're familiar with, so that you can make it fun, get competitive, run each other over, do what, you know. No, I mean, I didn't say that, but
no,
you know, when you go crisscross, you know, don't follow the rules and get the coach upset if you can.
Yeah, exactly. So, and
No,
I and I've taken the advanced riders course as well myself, and I thought it was very, very informative. But what I want to let people know is that oftentimes you think you're going to go to this course and you're going to do all these like really fancy moves, but I think one of the things that is most relied on that people don't realize are those slow speed maneuvers, and really working that motorcycle in tight positions at slow speeds where you've got a lot of throttle and clutch control.
Yeah. And actually, that's a very good point. I mean, as beginners, you might not think about it, or maybe that's one of your biggest fear points, is the bike being so slow, and how are you going to keep it up and balance it and keep it moving? But that's, that again, for me, I turn it into a challenge, sort of like a game. I like to go slow and hold up the bike if I can. I'll go as slow as I can, like pulling up behind a car, because I don't want to get too close to them. And I'll just put the clutch in, brake a little bit, not put my feet down, just because I like to play around a little bit. It's just, sharpening my skill.
Yes, I like that. So there's a couple ways you can attend a course. You also can, is it Palladino?
Joe Palladino?
Jimmy Palladino, Joe Palladino, something. Yep. We're going to mess it all up, but I know he does the Ride Like a Pro.
Right.
And so there's another course. That's a very, very, I think it's a very extremely advanced course, but it's really.
Paulie took that, and he did real good and got a lot out of it, I think.
Enjoyed it a lot. And we know we've had friends that have bought the DVDs and watched them.
Right.
And so, a lot of that I think is becoming, like you said, one with your motorcycle, really understanding the dynamics of the machine underneath you, and how you as the rider can manipulate and control the machine to go and work the way you want it to work. And, people don't realize that. They think it's going to be this something that takes out of control on them. And I realize, that you as the rider have all the control all the way around. So that's a couple of ways. You can ride with friends. You can ride with other people that maybe are a little bit better and have ridden for a little bit longer. If you're a newer rider, as a way to sharpen some skills, go to an event. We've actually watched a lot of different events at motorcycle, I'm saying events, but you know what I'm talking about. Rallies and bike rallies and bike events.
Yep.
And a lot of times they'll have actually the pros out there doing some sort of a bike demo for you, and there's a way to learn from that. Yeah, absolutely.
You can also learn by people who are riding on YouTube and Facebook that do pop wheelies and drag their feet and their knees and things like that, but we don't recommend that.
Yeah, I would.
You don't want to learn that way right away. But those guys are highly skilled. They had to sharpen their skills. I got one out there that's up on Biker Life Radio right now on Facebook that this guy does some crazy things on it.
Stuff.
But it definitely looks like he knows what he's doing. So,
but he had to have fallen before he.
I can only imagine.
Got that good. It was all I thought of. So yeah, but you want to continue to sharpen your skills. I think it's something that is all riders. We can always continue to work on something for us. And I know as a rider coach, I share this with my class. I am constantly working on my quick stops and my swerving, because in a time of emergency, those are some of the techniques that you need to use most. And there's that muscle memory coming back again, is that you'll want to have the reaction of that spontaneous and happen because it's been learned and developed over time, not something you have to consciously think about, because then you've got delays in the process.
Now, you guys probably don't do this in the Riders Training course. What's it called? Riding Academy?
Riding Academy, yeah, the basic riders course.
Okay. You probably don't talk to people about, like they did when we learned how to drive a car, like have a way out. Do you bring those kind of things up?
We do.
Oh, you do?
It's part of the Motorcycle Safety Foundation. Yeah, there's always an escape path.
You got to have it. That's right. You always have an
escape path. And actually, I like to spend quite a bit of time there. And again, to me, it's about the thought process, because the more you train yourself, your eyes and your mind as a rider, to be looking at these 2 second, 4 second, and 12 seconds in front of you, and then scanning far and wide, side to side, always looking for a way out depending upon what's going on, you can be a safer rider, and it's all up to you.
Yeah, very good. And I know that we actually took our daughter out and we trained her, and it was a lot of fun trying to train her. I say try. We did.
Yeah.
We trained her. It was a lot of fun doing that. But I saw, so when I go back and I think of people just getting started. I can't think of it personally, but I can relate it to Nicole. When she first started riding, she wanted to ride like most people do. They're excited about riding. And so we took her through different types of training and things we did. We went up the road to a school and to an empty parking lot and did some different type of skills before she actually went and took the course.
Right.
And she actually passed the course and she did real well. Matter of fact, go ahead.
The Rider Coach was sharing with us that actually one of the students too, that she was very encouraging to the other students and helping where she could to, help people understand things a little bit differently. So she was a great asset in class, enjoyed it, had a great time, and has her endorsement today. Although she's not out there actively riding, she could pick up a motorcycle at any time and go ride.
Yeah. And one of the things that I noticed as we were training is there's always that slight bit of fear.
There's hesitation, maybe.
Yeah, there's a correctness of fear. I mean, I don't believe that. I'm comfortable on my bike. I don't necessarily have fear. I have a respect for the machine that I'm on. I understand the risks that are involved. But as a new person just getting started, there's doubt, right? There's maybe some fear that's there because you don't know. It's sort of an unexpected thing on what's going to happen. And, I've never done this before. So there's a lot of different emotions and feelings going into it. But I can assure you that once you get past those and once you conquer some of the skills that are necessary, especially going through the class that Deb has and the classes they have around the nation, you will come out more confident and be able to actually take on those and want to try and practice those. And that's sort of what I'm getting to is that, as a new rider, you want to get out there and you want to practice. Don't just hit the road. I mean, I probably shouldn't be speaking, Deb, but this is my opinion is that you want to do more practice before you actually get on the road. And if you get on the road, go out to some back roads. Don't go out in the traffic and to where there's a lot of other things that you have to worry about because you want to work on your riding skills. And so, go to places to where you won't be distracted with the traffic so you can learn how to properly ride and then get out there on the street after you've fine-tuned your skill. And that was probably something I should have left up to you, but that's just my 2 cents.
That was great because, everybody learns at their own pace. And so I think what you're saying is, go to a safe environment where you can learn at your own pace and practice the skills that you may want or need to practice or, just get in a safe environment. So you're not out on the road having to think about all those other distractions. But absolutely, the one thing that I do talk about a lot in my class is the fact that riding is a mental game. It's just like any athletic sport. It's about the mind game and it's about what you bring into that mental capacity. So if you bring a lot of fear in without a lot of desire to just overcome that, then that's what you'll experience. So we've got to find a way to get through that. And it's just, you've got control. And I think that's the most important part is that we have control of that machine and understanding its mechanisms that are in control of it makes it all worthwhile. And so it's a great sport that we absolutely both love and enjoy doing. That's why we have the show. So I just want to encourage you, if you're in another area, go out, find a class. If you want to learn how to ride, if you want to just sharpen your skills, go out and find a class, either with Harley Motorcycle Safety Foundation. I know there's another group, Total Control, that does classes in different parts of the country. And so go out there, find a class that'll work good for you. And if you're in the local area, I'd love to have you attend my class and we can work together. I teach out of Rossiter's Harley Davidson, so be sure and look us up.
And you got a class coming up soon, don't you?
I do, the 13th through the 16th of August. So just another week and a half away. So be sure and sign up, give them a call. I'd love to have a chance to meet you and work with you.
Okay. So before we wrap this up, there's a couple of things that I wrote down real quick, and it's about actually having some goals. So, go out and practice different things that you have challenges with, whether you're a beginner or not. Maybe like me, probably should go out there and do some left U-turns, make sure I really do have that down. And then get out there and conquer your different challenges that you have and overcome one at a time. So as you continue to advance as a rider, you'll have those skills down and be able to use them. So set some goals for yourself so that you can go out there. They don't have to be elaborate and that kind of thing, but it's like Deb talked about in your mind, your mental game. It's going to go a long way in your mental game when you say, hey, I want to go out there and I want to conquer, the figure eight. Right, Deb?
Yep.
You're a big figure eight person, right?
U-turn, left turn, right U-turn, left U-turn, absolutely. So those back to back, getting in a really tight spot is what we all kind of I focus on a lot. But yes, and if you do, another thing along with goal setting, I think that could be helpful is writing them down, just like you did, just a second ago, is make a note, so that you actually have a document of what you're working on. And then as you're either out there riding, you're focused on working on those. And then as you feel more comfortable, you can actually pick another skill to work on, or even another goal to achieve. Maybe it's, planning a ride for 6 months out with friends that's going to take you, across a couple of state lines. If you've never done a trip like that, take you out for several days. Or even if you're doing local rides, maybe it's just a full long day's worth of riding. So those are all great things that you can challenge yourself with, and you can make notes in order to continuously watch your improvements and make note of that too.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's what I was just going to say. Watch your improvements, because that's what you're able to do. You're able to acknowledge your accomplishments.
That's right.
By, sort of tracking them. So it gives you more motivation to take on the next step. So for those of you guys just getting started, those are some tips that might be able to help you out. And we'll tell you a little something I wanted to bring up, has maybe nothing to do with this much, but Debs, there's been times that we've gotten on the bike, headed down the road, and things didn't just feel right. And what did we do?
Turn around and come right back home. So, with that, my suggestion is to follow that gut instinct. You don't know what you don't know quite yet, but whatever is going on inside your gut, just listen to that still small voice that you hear. We've gone to the gas station, filled up. We both kind of looked at each other, and I'm like, I'm not feeling good. Okay, let's turn around. I'm not willing to take the chance of one of us not being on our game mentally, and or knowing or having a feeling that something might not be quite right. Maybe it was something on the motorcycle. I don't know. We never have had something kind of a revelation afterwards, but I know that we made the right decision just by listening to that voice.
And we've done it more than once, not a whole bunch of times, but so don't take it to an extreme, okay?
Right.
Especially when you're just getting started out, because you're going to have those butterflies. That's going to happen. That's going to be natural. You actually want that as you start out, because you're going to need that, because you need it for protection. You need to make sure you're doing the right things. You need to make sure you're alert. All those good things you need to make sure that are in place, but don't overreact. I'm just sharing this with you because there are times that you'll go out and, maybe it's something that happened to us in traffic, or it just didn't seem like the day was playing out right. There was just an overall feel about the whole thing. And when we both agreed, then we know something's up. So we would just come back home, and unfortunately we'd sit in the room and cry that we weren't out riding like everybody else. But no, sometimes you need to really go with your gut. And because if you're not in it, like any game, if your mind's not in it, you have the ability to get hurt.
You're at stronger risk of something
It's just
happening.
like playing football. If you're out there and you're doing things half-assed and your mind isn't in the game, well, more than likely, there's a good possibility that you may get injured. So we don't want that for you. So let's go ahead and wrap things up, Deb. We want to make sure that everybody goes out that's listening to the podcast. If you would, go out to Apple Podcast or Spotify and leave us a review, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss another Chuck-n-Deb show on Biker Life Radio. You can also find us on Facebook on Biker Life Radio. Deb, you want to add anything?
Nope. And be sure and visit us on chuck-n-debshow.com for all episodes and information. And if you'd like to leave us a topic to talk about, you can also record a message there too.
Yep. And we do have a couple of sponsors, Deb. Want to go ahead and mention Tony and Guy?
Yes. Today's show sponsor one of them is Tony and Guy Hairdressing Academy out of Colorado Springs, Colorado. And we also want to make sure that you are as safe as possible. And another sponsor is the inView. And so again, visit our website. You can get all the information. And that's another way that you can be a safer rider all the time. inView.
You want to check that up. It's chuck-n-debshow.com/inView, lowercase. All right. Well, that's it. We appreciate you tuning in, and we can't wait to talk to you next week. Everybody take care.
See you again soon.